This week at MWC 2022, Lenovo debuted a handful of Chromebooks and were nice enough to send them over for us to get a first look at. And included in those Chromebooks is the Lenovo Chromebook Duet 3, which is the follow-up to the insanely popular Lenovo Chromebook Duet. It's kind of the same form factor, but it just improves on so many little things across the board. So let's just take a look at it. So first up, let's talk about price and specs, because the price of the original Chromebook Duet was what made it kind of awesome. It was like $299 and it had a great screen on it, but there were a lot of other issues with that device that could be overlooked because of the low price. Well, this new one is going to start at $399, so that's $100 more. It'll probably go on sale all the time too, but it's going to come with either 4 or 8 gigs of RAM. It comes with the Snapdragon 7C Gen 2, which is a nice upgrade. It's the same thing we see in the Lenovo Chromebook Duet 5, which is the bigger version basically of this device. And it's going to come with either 64, 128, or 256 gigs of internal storage. Now, it's unclear at this point what the price points will be as we add more RAM and add more storage, but we'll hear more about those details as we get closer to the launch of this one, which is coming up pretty quickly just in May here of 2022. Now that we got those kind of specs and basic internal stuff out of the way, let's actually look at this device, because Lenovo did a bunch of stuff. I mean, we've only had this in the office here for a handful of hours at this point, but I can already tell you Lenovo's done a bunch of stuff to actually improve on what they got right in the original Lenovo Chromebook Duet. And what was that? So we had a 16 by 10 screen. You still get that here. You had a 400 nit screen. It was IPS and had great viewing angles. You get all those things here again, but it's an 11-inch screen this time around instead of a 10.1-inch screen. So that extra real estate is going to come into play in a couple different ways. But then they've replaced all the outer pieces. So the back panel that's here, the keyboard piece, the feel of the tablet in general, there's a bunch of little things. So we're going to kind of walk around the device and talk about each one of those things individually and kind of see how this thing just feels way more cohesive than its predecessor. So since I have it right here in front of me, we'll talk about the back panel first. And as soon as you pick this thing up, it's really clear that this is the exact same mechanism, the same materials, all that stuff that we got in the Lenovo Chromebook Duet 5. And, we gave a bunch of those away, and we've been fans of that device since it launched, and for good reason. There's a lot of good design elements there, and this is one of them. If you've got the original Lenovo Chromebook Duet, you know that back plate is real thick. Actually has like a solid piece and then the kickstand over top of that. It just adds a bunch of bulk to the device. This doesn't. I mean, you can see this thing is like ultra thin. It feels just like a few sheets of paper thick, and that's about it. But it's sturdy enough to hold the device up, and the magnet is super strong. It drops right into place, and once it's there, it's not wiggling and moving all over the place. And so A+ on the back part. Again, the kickstand is really good too. We'll get this thing fully opened up here in just a second. So the other outer piece that's different, not wildly so in its look, is the keyboard section here. And so this part is actually nice and thick, kind of like it was on the original Lenovo Chromebook Duet, but that means it's decently sturdy as well, which I like. The trackpad on here is really nice and really clicky. You can kind of hear, but it's not jumping around all over the place. It doesn't feel sticky or cheap. It's small. Obviously, this is a small device, but using it just this morning, I wrote an article on just this device, and the trackpad is great. It works really well. And then you actually get better key travel than you got on the original Lenovo Chromebook Duet, which never was that bad. It was just kind of cramped. And remember when I said the bigger screen is going to come into play? Well, it comes into play here because the larger screen gives you more room for more space between your keys, and it makes just for a comfortable typing experience. So with the added travel on the keys, they have a nice quiet click to them. And great feedback. Typing on this thing was fantastic. My only issue was I'm not sure which exact layout this one is. Some European, because it's got like the Euro sign on it and stuff like that. So, it's probably the EU keyboard layout. And so there's some issues here, like the backspace is over here, and I kept hitting it because it's where our shift normally is. But other than that, like, typing on this thing was really fast, really precise, and I could not say that of the old Lenovo Chromebook Duet. This thing was actually really great to type on. And then there are a couple more additions that they added in just the keyboard portion of this thing. It is still a flexible cloth connection here, and that's good for certain things and bad for others. Let's talk about the things it's good for. For one, when you go to connect it, the flexibility flexibility of that makes it really easy for that magnet to find its slot and just kind of lock in place. But what's really nice is because there's so much fabric there, dropping it around behind, it knows already that it's in tablet mode. So it went into the tablet interface here, you can see. So it knows when I flip the keyboard back, it's in tablet mode. And there's a strong enough magnet that right now I'm having to really kind of work to open this thing back up. So it really grabs in place and doesn't, wiggle around when you're holding it. And that's important if you're not going to take the keyboard off. If you're going to hold this thing as a tablet really quickly to maybe jot some notes or something, it is USI compatible as well. It's nice to be able to drop the keyboard back here, have it sit flush, and stay in place. And it does the same trick whenever we flip it around this way. It magnetizes itself closed. And so many tablets get this wrong. You close it up and this thing is moving all around and it just doesn't feel like it's well put together. That is not the case here. When you close this thing up, it's firm, it's tight, and it just feels like all the pieces were really thought out here. And I love the overall look and feel of this thing whenever it's closed up like this. So we've talked about all the outer portions. Again, I love that magnet right there. And all these things really firmly attach themselves to the tablet. But when we take them off, and let me turn the screen off here so we can talk about this. You want the tablet to feel great in the hand. This thing is super light. I would guess, we haven't put it on a scale, but I bet you it's at around a pound, if maybe a tad bit more, but very easy to hold in one hand. No issue to hold in portrait mode. And so this is what you expect when you have a tablet. As much as I love the Duet 5, it's kind of large and it's a little unwieldy when you're trying to hold it in one hand. This thing, if you're walking around a meeting, kind of giving a presentation, talking, keep taking notes, reading stuff, all that kind of stuff, it just works really well. And then the aluminum back here in this kind of two-tone color, it just looks great. It feels great. It feels high quality, well put together. And again, for $400, you're getting a lot of stuff in the box that's all going together very, very well. Now, along the back here, we have an 8 megapixel rear-facing camera, and then on the front, you get a 5 megapixel camera. So it's an upgrade in the camera department. I wouldn't expect too much, honestly. These are still Chrome OS cameras, but when you're talking about getting into, school meetings or business meetings or stuff like that, having those extra megapixels up front is very nice. If you need to scan documents or something like that, having those extra megapixels on the back is also going to be a nice addition. And then we've got to talk about this screen. So let me reattach all this stuff so we can kind of set it up. And you can just hear those magnets. I mean, they're just firm and they work and they go together really nicely. Let me close this down so we don't blow the shot out. And so as I spin this around, there's a couple cool things going on here with the screen. Again, you're getting a 16 by 10, so the aspect ratio is a little bit taller than 16 by 9, but it's a full 11-inch display, and that addition is enough to make it feel way more comfortable in desktop mode. Again, like I said, I worked from this for about an hour and a half today, and didn't feel nearly as constricted as I do a lot of times on smaller tablets like this. Like I could actually see myself getting some stuff done here. But the other cool touch, and hopefully you'll be able to pick this up on camera. If not, we'll have to cut in some B-roll so you can see it. They've actually curved the display on the edges. So there's a little border radius right on the edges. And I know that doesn't make any difference to anybody probably, but it's a nice touch that I noticed almost immediately because most of our cell phones now and a lot of other tablets have rounded corners on them. There's something about it that just gives it a finished feel rather than it just kind of being the blunt corners. And I don't know. I haven't seen a Chromebook do that yet, and it's just a really nice touch to this overall nice rounded device in general. It just kind of makes it feel very finished and cohesive. And then when I close it up, it just feels nice. There's just something about this. Like Lenovo spent time to put these pieces together, and they chose the right processor at this point right now, I think. There are some ones coming, I think, that will outperform the Snapdragon 7C Gen 2. But as we've seen with the Lenovo Chromebook Duet 5, it's a solid processor that allows you to get some work done and works with Android apps really well and just handles multitasking generally well. And you have a really nice screen here. You've got options for plenty of RAM and plenty of storage. You've now got a USB Type-C on both sides, which is very nice, especially if you're hooking up to a desktop setup. You have some flexibility there. You got stereo speakers that are on both sides that flank each end, which is kind of a nice touch, honestly. We had kind of on the top stereo separation speakers, but this gets them even wider here. They don't sound amazing from what we can tell so far, but you know, Lenovo's not done tuning this thing, so these speakers could sound better whenever it ships. But overall, when we look at a device like this, that's in this kind of price range, that's in this size, this is an impressive offering from Lenovo. It's impressive that they took what they did in the Lenovo Duet, the original one that everybody loved so much. It's amazing that they did what they did with that first one, and they took it, and instead of like trying to reinvent the wheel, they just made all the pieces better. They made it more cohesive feeling. They added a little bit more screen real estate. They made a better keyboard and a better trackpad, and you know, made a better overall aesthetic, and put magnets in where they were missing. And it's if I had a wish list for all the things I would want to add to the original Duet, this one checks almost all of them. And so I'm really excited to see this one hit production, for us to get a production level unit. This is still a pre-production model here, and take it for a test run and see how it can do in real world scenarios, and you know, at work and at home and for content consumption and on the road and all that stuff. This is a really, really good looking tablet from them. But guys, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, head down there and hit that subscribe button, and be sure to ring the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted when we make future videos just like this one. Until next time, we'll see you.